Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. As I was preparing this week for tonight, Psalm 139 just kept coming to mind, so I thought I feel led to start with that. Psalm 139, 14 to 17 says, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. My substance was not hid from thee, when I was made in secret and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them. How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God! How great is the sum of them! So I think the reason the Lord put this on my heart is it is very important for us to remember tonight that each one of us is God created and therefore unique. A one-of-a-kind creation that has never been before and never will be again. So as we're sitting here, I could see where there be the possibility of comparison, and we don't want any of that. So, we rebuke the spirit of comparison. We are all uniquely made, and we all have a gift mix, and the Lord needs that gift mix in this season right now, the way that you are. So, having said that, we're going to start in on the second of the redemptive gifts, which is the gift of servant. In our culture, this gift does not carry a great deal of honor. We come from a society that emphasizes individuality, yet in the eyes of God, the gift of a servant is incredibly significant. It is a gift that is vital to the functioning of all of the other gifts. And God grants servants the most spiritual authority among all the gifts because servants do not desire it for personal gain. As we're discussing this gifting, I want you to keep several people that are referenced in the Bible in mind as, example servants. Queen Esther, Simeon, the son of Jacob, Joseph, which would be Jesus' earthly father, Timothy, and Ananias, the one who ministered to Saul in Damascus. So what does a servant really look like? Servants are known for their purity of motive and lack of guile. And guile, I looked up the definition to be sure, it's sly or cunning intelligence. So servants don't have that, which makes them uniquely trustworthy. Servants see needs, particularly external needs such as comfort and food, and they're quick to meet them. And I've seen this play out in my own life with hospitality. And when I really think back to my early years in elementary school, I had a lady in my family that was a member of several little ladies groups in the community, and she would host sometimes in a summer event or Christmas for certain. And she would make me these little dresses, and I would go down and be her little assistant. And I just loved that. The old ladies loved me. Old, they were probably 40, but, I thought they were old because I was probably like 7 or 8 years old. Ancient ladies. They loved me. I loved doing it, that kind of thing. So then later, when I was about 15 and was confirmed at the Lutheran Church, we got the opportunity to sign up for a committee. And the one that I chose, the one that looked like the most fun to me, like the most interesting, was the hospitality committee. So there I am again with those old ladies, probably 40, maybe pushing 50. And this worked well for me because my gram was on the same committee, so I could just hitch a ride with her. We could go to the fellowship dinner early, get everything set up, then do the cleanup, that whole thing. If we fast forward to college, when everybody else was joining Greek sororities and fraternities, I was finding a service sorority. It had Greek letters, but we had nothing to do with the Panhellenic part of things. We were out there to have an adopted grandmother at the nursing home, to help the Head Start kids. When Montgomery County, this is Virginia, they had a Christmas drive for underprivileged families. Well, we would go out and babysit the kids while their parents shopped, that kind of stuff. Fun stuff like that, like stuff you're just drawn to because it's so fun. I've seen this play out in our Baptist church. I was known for the kitchen activities as well. I had a name. I'm not going to say it for the video. And even at Crossroads, maybe you remember the 25th anniversary, I was that person in the kitchen. We'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, so I now work for Navy Federal Credit Union, and I'm an instructional designer, which has nothing to do necessarily with engagement and catering and things like that. But when we have events for some of our meetings, I'm that person that's welcoming people at the door. I'm checking in with the caterer, setting up decorations, things like that. I have learned I am not good at balloon arches, however. So, as Lucas was saying, when looking at the sevens in the Bible, specifically the 7 days of creation, the servant is associated with the atmosphere and the oceans that were created on the second day. So the atmosphere symbolizes the servant's preference for being unseen, yet essential to life. So similarly, the servant's role is often invisible, but vital. So really, if I could have worked the 25th and you not seen me, that would have been perfect. Don't like to be seen. Cleansing is a recurring theme also for the servant, and we see that in the role of air and water in creation. Servants can walk through deep iniquity or filth without becoming defiled, reflecting the unique resilience. They are also unparalleled as armor bearers due to their ability to cleanse and protect leadership. And if you've been around me much this year, you've probably heard me complaining that I've had 3 different supervisors in the last 12 months. So that's been a lot of onboarding, and I felt a lot of responsibility to bring them on and make sure that they were settled and secure and, ready to roll, and that they had a lot of background information and things like that. So that's kind of where I see that coming out. Certainly, I'm also on the elder team, so having the staff's back and things like that, but you also see these things in your secular work as well. When looking, again, at the sevens in the Bible, specifically the 7 compound names of Jehovah, in Exodus 15:22-26, it introduces Jehovah Rapha, the Lord who heals. So the servant is associated with this name, but it doesn't really refer to healing of illness so much but rather keeping people whole and preventing harm. So especially, in this later season of life, I'm very much about people's well-being, wholeness, peace of mind, and a lot of unity. I see this at work with my teammates, especially because, did I mention, we've had 3 supervisors in 12 months. So there's been a lot of change fatigue, and I'm constantly temperature checking with them to make sure everybody's okay. And I actually thought later, after I did my notes, that maybe that's why the Psalm 139 thing, because I want to make sure people feel good tonight, that you have well-being, wholeness. The servant's role in cleansing and deliverance ministries is particularly effective. Now, this one's surprising because we came to Crossroads 4 years ago, and I took Free Me Day the first couple months and then ended up on the team. So deliverance wasn't something that had ever been a part of my life before. But now, as I hear people going through different things, I'm like, I know they need deliverance. I just haven't always figured out how to tell them you need deliverance. So still working on that one, especially in the secular environment. Servants often walk in a holiness, and they synergize well with the prophets due to their shared pursuit of righteousness. They resonate with truth, and they support prophets in refining and applying biblical principles. So in my life, I feel like things just need to be right. They need to be done in excellence. They need to be proper and correct and organized. And there's no room for that iffiness. It just needs to be truthful. It needs to be right. So I think on your handout tonight, you see some job roles for servants. So did I happen to tell you that I have worked as a teacher in several different environments, never a K-12 teacher, but other places. And today I write training with 6 lovely individuals, 5 of which have recently left the public school system as teachers. So I feel like I might be immersed in a sea of servants, or at least some people that identify with that servant gift. So along with all of these qualities of the servants, there are some opportunities for us as well, and we must address a couple of key issues. First, dignity versus shame, and this comes in understanding their worth and authority in God's eyes and not looking for external validation. I feel like sometimes the servant's doing the job that not everybody thinks is the cool, fun job to do. So you have to be looking at it as you're doing it unto the Lord, and you're not looking for somebody else to be saying, oh, it's so good you're doing that. I worked at Cracker Barrel in Woodstock, and sometimes there was nobody at close of business to clean the bathrooms. And so you clean the bathrooms. It's part of your job. You just go and do it. Dominion versus being a victim, rejecting a victim mentality and walking confidently in the God-given dominion and authority for you to do what's been put before you. And then being illegitimate versus your identity, just embracing your role and your calling and feeling like, yes, this is what the Lord has put before you, and just walk in it. So I feel like sometimes there's a fine line between the joy of serving, providing comfort, peacefulness, and feeling like the help. And not that anybody ever wants to try to make you feel like the help, but there is that little line. So as I'm serving, I'm responsible for a certain level of safety and security to those that I am serving. And sometimes people can kind of breach those walls, and it's hard to respond in a kind manner. So because in that moment, you're putting it all out there, and you just want people to respect certain boundaries. So you might say, like, what are you talking about? So in the event of the kitchen, if you're running activity with a lot of food and things like that around, and you have a team of people, because servants do like teams, the unity of a team, you've got a team of people, what you don't need are other people kind of coming into the kitchen to just meander through, touch things, take a look at this, take a bite of macaroni, have a chicken leg, with their dirty, grimy hands. So that's kind of like where that plays out. And so sometimes you may see that little come out in me if I'm serving here. Servants frequently can overextend themselves due to a strong desire to meet needs and please people, often at the expense of their own families. I get stressed out, and so you kind of take it out on those closest to you. You don't necessarily mean to. I think for me, it's more a thing of, I don't understand why I'm not being given grace in the moment, because I would feel like my tendency is to give grace to somebody else. So servants have few enemies due to their willingness to extend honor to others, often going as far as to make excuses for other people's shortcomings. They rarely display anger, but when they do, it is typically in defense of a loved one or a loyalty issue. Their loyalty to family is exceedingly strong. And sometimes then they can attract dishonor, especially within their homes. They work really hard, but if you don't have proper understanding, a servant may actually become an enabler. And I think what this means is that people are used to you being there, doing what you do best, which is the cleaning up, the washing the dishes, all those end of the event activities that nobody else wants to do. And so sometimes people just expect it of you. And, sometimes you're a little tired and maybe you would like a little help with that. So another thing about servants is they struggle to accept compliments because you're not doing something to receive man's compliments. This is a work given to you by the Almighty, and He is who you are accountable to. So in closing tonight, servants have authority over life and the ability to bring restoration and fullness to others. They find fulfillment in their role of providing cleansing and restoration and support for others, allowing God's leaders to thrive. And their integrity and their trustworthiness and their obedience make them powerful agents of life and restoration in the body of Christ. Thank you.